Hey, this is Troy from Planet 76. We've got some really good Sixers-focused content coming your way today. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you can be in the know when we release new content. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to Planet 76 podcast. My name is Michael. Troy here as well. We're rolling with episodes. This is episode 154.
Whoa.
No, 52. No,
Nope.
51.
There you go.
Episode 151. We are rolling. Off-season, the finals are starting tonight. Game 1's actually underway right now. But the off-season's pretty much here for 28 other teams. The Sixers included. Obviously, we're a Sixers podcast. We've been kind of talking about the off-season the past few episodes. Last week, we had our Tobias Harris episode. Make sure you guys go check that out. We kind of broke down Tobias Harris's tenure with the Sixers, a tenure that is, as we talk about in the episode, more than likely at an end. Make sure you go check that out. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Make sure you go subscribe on YouTube as well. Make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You know the drill. I don't have to say anything. We're 151 episodes in. Troy, this is our real first official off-season episode. We're going to get into every Sixers free agent. We're going to talk about each player individually, few minutes each, more minutes than others. And this is going to mark our start of off-season conversation. There's a lot to talk about. And as free agency gets closer, we're probably, a little more than 3 weeks away. Not quite 4 weeks, but just about 3 weeks-ish away from free agency. So definitely there's a lot to talk about. We're going to cover a big chunk of it in this episode, and then we're going to have maybe one or two more free agency episodes before free agency actually hits at the end of June. So let's get right into it. Troy actually came up with a good idea. I'll let him bring that in, and it's just going to be kind of our intro to this free agent class for the Sixers.
Yeah, no, all sounds good. I like the way you put that. 28 teams are in off-season mode, and that's the truth. You know, I can't believe the NBA is nuts. I mean, it seems like they haven't played a game in 2 weeks, and they're finally playing here on Thursday night, the 6th. You know, Celtics were off for literally 2 weeks, it felt like, and Mavericks were off for a little bit. But anyway, interesting offseason for the Sixers. A lot of money to their disposal. Tyrese Maxey is going to get paid. We know that. And then there are literally, and, a lot of times you can just throw a number out there and say, oh, there's like 10 guys out there that are, free agents on this team. No, like there literally is. That's kind of what the Sixers are dealing with right now. And, Michael really came up with the idea to kind of talk about, all right, these 10 guys that the Sixers have had on their roster this past season, and are they going to stay? Are they going to go? Where are they going to land? All of that discussion, because, I can't remember a Sixers team where there was 10 guys, and a lot, 8 of these guys, just looking at it real quick, 8 of these guys are, played a major role on this team, recently. A couple guys were injured, like Robert Covington and DeAnthony Melton, but the other guys outside of Mo Bamba, really played a role at some point in the playoffs, especially. So we're going to talk about these guys, and really, we're first out of these 10. What we're going to do is just kind of rank our personal preference as to who we want to see back. So 1 through 10. 1 being we absolutely want to have them back, and 10 being it's okay if they go. Let's just say it like that. So in that order, and we'll rank them like that as far as who we want to see here and who we don't mind if they leave. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
All right.
Go ahead, bring us in.
It
was your idea, so I feel like it's only fair.
All right, so I'll read you my list. I ranked these 10 guys, and then you'll go. We'll just kind of talk about that for a couple minutes, and then we'll be a little more realistic, I guess, toward the end of the episode, talking about, all right, who's really going to stay, who's really going to go, that kind of thing. So my ranking, I'm going to start at 10, so 10 being the least. I might catch some heat right off the bat here from you or from a listener. Of the 10 free agents for the Sixers, The one I least would like to see back is Robert Covington.
Really?
Robert Covington is in my 10 spot.
Huh.
Love Robert Covington, but just kind of the injury situation this year, and you hate to see him injured, but yeah, 10. Anyway, moving on. If I talk about it too much, I'm going to be in the next 15 minutes. All right, number 9 for me is Kenyon Martin Jr. Like what he showed in spurts, and I think, even if he got the playing time, I would like more of what I see, but just kind of didn't. And, this coming season, if he were to come back, I don't see his role changing much. Number 8 for me is Mo Bamba. Showed some signs of life at times this season, but not a whole lot, again, even with action for him. Number 7 for me is Kyle Lowry. Liked what he did for a lot of this season when he came over, and I would not mind having him back at all, even though he's number 7. Number 6 is Nico Batum. He was huge. He was huge in that play-in tournament against the Miami Heat. Was a starter for a lot of games and played a major role, and I would like to see him back. Number 5 for me, now again, this is not who I think is most likely to come back, but who I'd like to see back. Number 5 is Tobias Harris. Middle of the pack here, kind of an interesting spot for him. Now money obviously is a little bit of a factor in this equation, because if it was like, all right, which of these 10 guys would you sign for a veteran minimum? Like Tobias Harris would be at the top of that list. Me and Michael talked about that last week in full length in Tobias Harris, but kind of with money playing a factor in that, knowing that if you bring Tobias in, he's not going to, he's going to require a decent amount of money that you might not be able to spend on some other guys. So that's the reason for that. Number 4 is going to be Cameron Payne.
Wow.
Cameron Payne at number 4. I love what he provides off the bench. I love what he did for this team. I love the spark that he provided even in that short-lived playoff run for the Sixers. I like what he provides. I've talked about it several times. It seems like every time I mention him, coming in behind Tyrese Maxey, it's not a huge shift in what you're doing out there, and I like that Cameron Payne does that. All right, what was he, number 3? No, 4.
That was 4, yeah.
Number 4, all right, 3 more. Then it's yours. Number 3 is going to be, this was tough between Melton and Hield.
Did you say Lowry? What about Lowry? Did I miss Lowry?
Lowry's 7.
Oh, okay.
Lowry's 7. All right, so this is going to be tough between Melton and Hield. I'm going to go with DeAnthony Melton at 3.
Wow.
Love Melton. Absolutely love him. Mr. Do Something. I think he's easily number 2 if it weren't for the injury issues this year. If you were to tell me he's coming back fully healthy, fully ready to go, he could be 1. Like, that's how big I am on him. Would love to see him back with the Sixers. Number 2 is Buddy Hield. I think he just didn't fully get a fair shake with the Sixers. Again, we talked about this numerous times. Every time he would check in, he might miss a shot or two, and then he checks out, gone. I feel like he never got into the rhythm that he needed, and he did in that one game against the Knicks in Game 6, and it showed. He helped us get back in it and maintain that being a game. All right, and then obviously, so Hield's 2, and then number 1, a free agent that I want to see come back in a Sixers uniform is Kelly Oubre Jr. Phenomenal this season. Absolutely phenomenal. Played a variety of different roles. Starting lineup, off the bench. Did what you needed him to do. Did a lot for this team even defensively. He's versatile. So he's my number 1 target out of these 10 guys to come back. Whew. All right. That's me. All right. Any general thoughts, questions on my list before we do yours?
No. We have similar lists. I'll just say it that way. I agree with almost all. Well, I don't really have any real, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't have any real, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Real issues.
Right.
That's basically what I'm trying to say. I don't have any real issues with it. There's nothing I could really say, oh, well, this. I don't think that should be, or this guy's too high, this guy's too low. For the most part, yeah, I agree. Right. Especially being the 3 guys you have at the top priority for the Sixers. We've talked about it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
At some point, I've talked about it on my page. I think Oubre, Hield, and Melton are of the top priority for this team. I think you have to do everything you can, more so than others, to bring these guys back. And you also see that pretty evident in my list as well.
All right, let's hear it.
All right. So adhering to the rules, I originally had a couple guys with the same number, but I changed it. I made it one of each. I want to follow the format that you made. So number 10, I have Mo Bamba. Okay. Now I want to preface all this by saying I would love if everyone could come back because I was okay with everybody. Mo Bamba wasn't great, but he had his moments, and I liked Mo Bamba. I did. He caught a lot of slack. He at times did look off. He did look like a deer in the headlights sometimes. But I liked Mo Bamba, especially for a vet minimum. If he's back again, that's totally fine with me. So, again, I want to preface this by saying he might be 10th. I might be cool with him leaving. But all these guys, no matter what number I have them as, I would be very much okay with all of them returning. I have no issues with any player here.
I agree.
Number 9, I have KJ Martin. Again, I like KJ. I think he brings a lot. He's also very young, too. I think he's 23, 24. He brings a lot. Physicality, rebounding, a lot of it we saw towards the end of the regular season when Embiid wasn't playing. The last few weeks of the season, he was playing super well. I like KJ Martin. No problems. But, again, for the sake of this exercise, he's number 9. 8, I have Covington. I was very upset because I thought Covington, and still do think that he could have and can bring a lot to the Sixers. I really wanted him to play. I don't know what happened. I don't know where he was. Nick Nurse at one point in the season said basically that he's not coming back. I wondered why, and I talked about it on the podcast. I talked about it on my page. I liked Covington, as most of us did, fan favorite, obviously, and also him being a really good player. A lot of fan favorites aren't really that great, but he is great. So that was kind of upsetting. I wish he came back. I hope maybe he does come back. Who knows? The Sixers can only sign so many guys, so we'll have to see. But Covington is number 8 for me, and yeah. Number 7, Tobias Harris. Again, you had him at 6, right? So, I got him at 5. Oh, well, either way, I won't spend much time on Harris. We had a whole episode on it. If you want to know my thoughts, on Harris, go listen to the episode. Go watch the episode on YouTube. Tobias Harris, number 7. Number 6, I have Kyle Lowry. Now, maybe I swap Harris and Lowry because I'm cool with Lowry going due to the age and somewhat injury concern. I liked him. I thought he brought a lot, especially as a backup-ish point guard. Good defender. Hit the 3 really well with the Sixers. Just a very good floor general in the sense of being a good decision maker, being in control of the ball. So maybe switch Harris and Lowry, but for the most part, that's where I'd have those guys. Where's my number 5 at? Oh, 5 is Payne, Cam Payne.
Okay.
And I liked him a lot. Cam Payne, I know we've talked about Cam Payne on this podcast at least a few times.
Yeah.
He was awesome in the playoffs. He was so awesome. He essentially stole Buddy Hield's minutes, and for good reason, I think. I trust Nick Nurse a lot, so I'm sure he saw many things that we didn't see, which is why he made the decision to give Cameron Payne minutes. Great. I hope he's back. He was on a vet minimum, so I don't know. I mean, he's probably going to get more. And I also want to preface this by saying the contracts that these guys have with the Sixers right now, or I should say they're going to get way more money than that. Kelly Oubre is going to get way more. Some team's going to give him $20 million. Hopefully not the Sixers. Maybe we'll get into more of that soon. Some team is going to give Payne $7-8 million. Hopefully not the Sixers. Again, that's a lot of money. Hield's going to get $15 million more than likely. I'm kind of hoping the Sixers give him that because I think he's worth it. Yeah, Melton's going to get a massive deal. We'll get into Melton in a little bit. So kind of all over the place thoughts there, but Payne at 5. 4, I have Batum. He might retire. Nick Batum might retire. And I wouldn't be surprised, especially considering I saw something that said he was going to retire after last year. I'm glad he didn't because he was single-handedly the reason the Sixers made the playoffs this year. So I would very much love to have him back, as I'm sure you would as well. Yep. You put him. Didn't you have him 3 or you had him 5? No, you had him 3, right? No.
I had him 6.
Oh, well.
That's good. I mean, with Tobias
Whatever,
5.
It's fine. Nick Batum at 4. 3, I have Buddy Hield.
Okay.
Speaking of. Buddy Hield seems to be a more controversial free agent for the Sixers because a lot of people think that the Sixers should let him walk.
Yep.
But when you make a trade for a guy like that, I feel like you have to do almost everything possible to get him back and re-sign him to a big contract. And not even that, but he's been the best three-point shooter in the league for years now, and that's not going to change. The Sixers need that on their team. They don't have that. Maxey is developing into a phenomenal three-point shooter, one of the best in the league, but Buddy Hield is arguably the best in the league, catch and shoot. You need this guy, and if I'm the Sixers, I'm doing a lot to get him back. I'm spending a significant amount of money to get him back. So Buddy Hield at 3, Kelly Oubre at 2. Again, I do draw a line somewhere, but I will spend a significant amount of money to get Kelly Oubre back. He was so impactful for this team. You kind of touched on it. Versatility, defense, really good rebounder, very good two-way player.
Yeah.
Can handle the ball well, attack the basket, hit threes, create his own shot a little bit. You need that. The modern NBA basically demands that from you. If you're a team with championship aspirations, you need two-way players off the bench, role players who can do things, and Kelly Oubre can do many things. Speaking of doing many things, Anthony Melton is number 1 for me. And I think I just talked about him a few minutes ago, but it's fine if I didn't. D'Anthony Melton is number 1 for me. I think D'Anthony Melton should be number 1 priority for the Sixers. He seems to be even more controversial of a free agent than Buddy Hield due to the injury, which I understand. But D'Anthony Melton is a fantastic player, and I would argue he's the exact type of role player you need alongside Maxey and Embiid, because he's a guy who can play next to Maxey, defend the perimeter, make up for some of what Maxey lacks defensively. He can hit threes as well. He can create shots for himself as well. Again, super important attributes to have for role players in the NBA. Again, the NBA demands this of teams. You need guys who can hit threes, create shots for themselves, pass the ball. D'Anthony Melton's a good passer. Speaking of things he does well, D'Anthony Melton is one of the best rebounding guards, maybe in NBA history, but that I've ever seen. And that's just a bonus. It's not something that you're paying him to do, but it's a bonus, and it's a really, really great bonus because he's really, really good at it. So D'Anthony Melton, number 1 for me. I think he should be priority number 1 for the Sixers this offseason.
All right. Woo! Mr. Do Something coming in at number 1 on Michael's list of priorities for the Sixers. Yeah, I mean, even... we had a couple guys, a spot or two difference, but, kind of guys in the same tiers. Our 10, 9, 8 were the same 3, just kind of different order. Our middle of the road guys were same. Yep.
I was going to say, I'm sorry. And I do want to also say that Oubre, Melton, and Hield are basically all number 1s for me. If this wasn't ordered, if we couldn't only... If I could assign
if it was
the
tiers,
same number to multiple players, or if it was tiers, correct... they all be in the same tier. I think all 3 of these guys should be priority number 1 for the Sixers this offseason. And I just think they're amazing. I think they bring so much to your team.
Yep.
I think you kind of have to make it so that you can't let them go in the offseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this offseason there are a couple things that are known, right? We know that these 10 guys are free agents, and then there's a lot of unknowns, right? Because like you said, both of us, we wouldn't hate having any of these guys back, but like we know it's not going to happen. Like it's not going to be all 10. And what is the number going to be? Is it just going to be those 3 that you and I are big on? Is it going to be 4 guys? Is it going to be? I don't think it's going to be 6. You know what I mean? I don't know. In the modern NBA, I don't think 6 of these 10 guys are back. Which is crazy to think. It's only 60% of the guys that we're talking about, but we don't know where that line's going to be. And I do agree. Just to reiterate that point, I think the top 3 guys, as far as priorities that we're kind of discussing here in Hield and DeAnthony Melton and Kelly Oubre, those are big. Those are big. Now, to another point that you raised is there is a line for each of those guys financially as far as what we want to do. Now, over the next couple weeks, we're going to dive deeper into the external, right? This is internal, dealing with the Sixers guys, but the external is, okay, how much money are the Sixers going to offer a big name? How much money are they going to offer some other kind of role players like the guys that we're currently talking about? So it's going to get interesting because what the Sixers do externally is going to have an impact on what they can do internally with what they currently have or what they've had on their, the team in this previous season. So interesting there. Now, Michael, obviously these big 3 guys that we want back, now you'd have to think that Daryl and company are similar to us in that regard. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're too far off. There could be another guy kind of in that mix with them as far as priorities, whether it's a Batum or a Lowry or a Payne. Certainly wouldn't be anyone else, but how confident are you that the Sixers can get done what we want them to get done? If it's just these 3 and then the external, we'll talk about that at a later day, but how confident are you they can get it done, bringing at least these 3 guys that we want back?
Extremely confident. The Sixers have $62.1 million in cap space this offseason. It's a lot of money. Now, in terms of these 3 guys, let's just break down a little bit. So, Oubre, I think he was on a vet minimum too, wasn't he?
It was close. So
Oubre is going to get a lot more than that, whether it's with the Sixers or somebody else. I think the line should be drawn at 10, 11, 12 million a year for Oubre. Teams are going to throw 15 million at him, 16 million at him. The Sixers should draw the line at 10, 11, 12. I think that's good for Oubre. I think that's right where he should be at. Teams always overpay for role players who have really good seasons. It happens. But I think I would offer him 10, 11, 12 million. I think that's where the Sixers should draw the line. And with Melton, I heard a report that he's going to command about 17, 18 million in the offseason from other teams. It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I'm not going to lie. And that does make it tough for me in terms of realistically getting him back, because you're talking 12 million for Oubre, you're talking 16 million for Melton. That's 28 million on these 2 guys alone. Now, you have 62 million, so it's a lot still.
Mm-hmm.
But don't they have to pay Maxey, or did they do that already?
They got to pay him.
They got to pay Maxey. That's also considered. That also needs to be considered.
Well, I think like.
Oh, well, I don't know how all that works. I don't even know if that plays into the cap. I'm not sure how that works.
Right. But what I think is, like, with these 3 guys we're talking about, there really is, I just Googled just a quick article to see what other people are saying, and a lot of people think that the Sixers are mostly big on Oubre. Mm-hmm. He's no doubt. I think he would probably
be number 1 priority for them.
The team's number 1, and then the veteran guys that played a role in the playoffs in Batum and Lowry. Those guys are obviously a little bit lower on our list, but you had Batum at what, 4? So we're both big on those 2. It's interesting though, because Yeah, I mean, if those other younger guys are going to demand a lot of money, maybe you bring it. Maybe your focus shifts again to Oubre, and you got him for a vet minimum. Now you're going to overpay a little bit, but then you bring in these two veterans on a short-term deal, a year or two, and then you work from there. But regardless, let's say whether it's the three we want or it's three other guys, there's a lot of spots on this roster to fill. Like, the more we talk about this, and if they only bring 3 of these 10 guys back, there's a lot of spots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just a lot to do here, and I don't know how much you want to get into that or where you want to go from here, but it's going to be an interesting offseason. I'm just going to say that and give it to you because I don't know where to go.
I mean, I think when we get more into potential outsiders in terms of who the Sixers can sign, we can get more into that. Because if you're looking at it this way, if you're looking at the Sixers let's say they get Oubre back for 12. They get Melton on 15. They get Hield on 11. That's like almost $40 million in cap space already.
Right.
So a guy like Payne is probably going to demand $5 million a year. Lowry's probably going to get 4 or 5. That's 10. That's 50. So you get those guys back. And then Harris walks, Covington walks, Bamba walks, which, again, based on my rankings, based on your rankings, we're okay with that. Main issue, what happens with Batum? Does he retire? If he doesn't retire, how much is he getting? 7, 8? That's 50? No.
Right. Yeah,
that's almost 60. So that's your whole cap space right there.
Let me throw another wrench in this.
Yeah, go ahead.
You might not want to hear this, but the rumors are still circulating that the Sixers are going after a guy.
Oh, I know. And that's the thing is, we can get into that a little bit too right now if you want. And I do definitely, we should do an episode just on that. What do you think?
Because then the conversation that we have shifts from because of what you're saying, how limiting that will be. Because then at least 2 of those 3 guys that we want are probably off the table.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at maybe one of those guys and then maybe some guys that are on our rankings at like 6, 7, or 8 that we're going to get back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's just so many ways this could play out. I mean, there's probably 4, 5, 6 different ways this plays out. And again, whatever happens, I have nothing but faith in Daryl Morey. I probably talk about him once every episode at this point.
Oh, for sure.
I have no reason not to trust this guy. He's made so. I will defend him till I no longer can do so. Every move that he's made, every decision that he's made has been good to great. Obviously, I mean, I've been a fan since he started with the Sixers in 2020. Yeah. Him drafting Maxey in 2020, I mean, really set the tone for his tenure as a president of basketball operations. I trust whatever he does. Whatever he does, I think will work. Whatever happens, I think it's going to work anyway. But there's 4, 5, 6 different ways this could play out, and I wouldn't necessarily love some of them because I know how some of them end. Wouldn't necessarily love some of these scenarios. I'd be okay with it. But just a lot of big name guys. I mean, they've been linked to everybody. Jimmy Butler, right. Donovan Mitchell, Brandon Ingram, LeBron James, Paul George. But then who did I miss? Kevin Durant.
Yeah, they sure have, yeah. It's crazy.
I don't know. I definitely think we could do a full episode just on the names alone, which, again, Troy and I will definitely talk off camera about that. But there's just a lot of ways this could play out. And, again, we all know, but none of these ways end in the Sixers getting all of these guys back. In fact, most of them probably end with the Sixers not getting a lot of them back. It probably has to be that the Sixers miss out on Lowry, Payne, Batum, Covington, maybe Melton, and or Hield. This just might be the way that it is, and that's something that, it's gonna have to it is what it is.
Exactly, and you and I might not have a ton of inside info
Oh,
to
we have
front
zero.
office and even how all that financial things work.
Right.
But what we do know is this: the more you pay for a superstar, the less you can give to other guys.
Correct.
Let's go to third grade, right?
Yeah.
Let's simplify it as much as we can. And it's going to be a little debilitating if you go and do that when free agency opens up, and then you got to get crafty in what you do. And again, the guys that we've said over and over who are going to demand a little bit more money may very well walk because, I mean, look what Kelly Oubre did this season.
Yep.
Right? We can't be upset at him if he, we offer him this, but he gets a little more offer from someone else and he takes it, right? Like, let's just be happy with the year we had him, so.
And here, I think I've talked about this on the podcast too, but my number one option for the Sixers this offseason is to go all in on depth, to spend as much money as possible on super high quality role players that fit alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, who you can plug into any situation on offense and defense, and they will be impactful. Guys like Kelly Oubre, sure, not a lot of guys like that in this free agency class.
Right.
But that's the kind of mold that you want for your team. You want guys who can fit and hit threes, play defense, rebound, run the floor, cut, set screens. You want guys who fit seamlessly into your team. And obviously, if you go out and get a Paul George, if you go out and get a Jimmy Butler, those guys are really, really, really good at all of those things. But the way I see it is that then you, like you said, you put all your chips in, and that's it. And you get one star player, and you lose out on depth, and you got to scramble for guys on veteran minimum contracts. Okay, it's doable, but it's not optimal. It's not really that great of an idea.
Right.
Getting and having the goal being acquiring as much high quality depth as possible puts you in a much better position. Because like I mentioned earlier, the modern NBA demands you as a aspiring championship contender to acquire high quality role players. You can't escape it. You can't get away with not doing that. Mm-hmm. And the Sixers have the blueprint. They have a ton of these guys. They had a ton of these guys. Let's build on that. Let's build on what we had and make our goal this offseason of acquiring as much high quality depth as we can.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and you've been of that camp, and I know you'll continue to be.
Yes.
And what you mentioned, I mean, they have the blueprint, and they also have the unique circumstance this offseason to go and do that.
And do it. And they haven't been in this situation ever,
correct.
Or at least not in the past decade. Literally,
right?
No exaggeration or anything here. They legitimately have not been able to do that in a decade.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, yeah, whether it's a couple of these guys, because, again, I mean, however it all is going to shake out, and, a lot of NBA teams probably look like this when it's all said and done in the end, is that once you bring in, once you get your stars that you're paying a lot, once you get those 2, 3, 4 role players that you really, 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 really want, and you're going to pay for them, and then you are going to have several guys that are making vet minimum. Like, that's just how it's going to play out. And, I'm not saying we're going to go find a Kelly Oubre, in this offseason who's going to put up the numbers that he did for a veteran minimum, but there will be guys out there that can contribute and can play at a high level that aren't going to cost you a whole lot. So, all right. Man, I don't know if we provided any clarity for anybody, but we sure did get people thinking, I think, with this one, because I'm still thinking as to what the Sixers are going to do. Should they stay or should they go? That's Planet 76, episode 151. Michael, you got anything else before we wrap this thing up?
No. I think I'll save any thoughts that I have, which are not many, for our next episode next week.
Yep. More free agency talk will be coming your way throughout the month of June, and more rumors will certainly be swirling around in the coming weeks. So we'll have you covered here on Planet 76, episode 151. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. We're also on there. I
really
shout that one out, but we are. Oh yeah.
Huh.
Oh yeah.
Check us out
Google
there.
Podcasts.
Wow.
everywhere. So Facebook, we have a Facebook page. I think sometimes it connects our Instagram, like our posts go there, just so you know. Yeah, man, we're everywhere.
Long story short, there's no reason why you should not be following Planet 76. There's no reason you should not be in the know of what we're up to.
Exactly right. There's no reason you shouldn't tell a friend either.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you next time on Planet 76. You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. Whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.